faces of Vitality, but the last time we saw Yamato in a game where the games didn't really matter, we saw Teemo Drakos.
Vedius, I don't know what to expect, but until we see something crazy, I'm going to treat this as the most serious LCS game of all time. Now, Lucian banned away. Not going to be the biggest pick, but it has been rising in popularity. And one man you kind of always have to talk about in the Unicorns of Love drafting phase is Xerxe. You can see on this graphic, Warwick, Gragas, those may be his most picked. But last week, he showed us like a new form of himself, this aggressive early game Xerxe.
Yeah, he decided to pick champions that are more focused towards trying to get early leads, applying more pressure in the lanes, or even applying pressure just in the enemy jungle. So champions like Kayn and Nidalee, stuff that Xerxe hasn't really brought out in the past, he made his debut on and really demonstrated to some of the viewers at home and to us as casters that he can play that early game style. He's not all about the scaling and the team fighting, and that is what allowed Unicorns this unique playstyle last week that we do not conventionally see from them. And so far with the bans, there's nothing too generic. There's going to be, there's nothing too
outside the box.
That's
right?
what I meant.
Yeah. Which
does give options for Xerxe if he wants to go back towards this early game style.
Curious to see what the first pick priority will be from the side of Unicorns of Love. Thresh banned away, Zac, Elise, a lot of the early junglers taken off the board, but Caitlyn has been left up and available despite the nerfs she saw on that attack speed growth. Still was the priority. Smiles coming out from the Vitality lineup. So far, it looks like we're just going to see a few more meta picks. Kalista coming out as well, so it looks like serious draft is the name of the game for Vitality.
It looks like they will be taking this game, as it does mean something, at the very least for H2K, because if Unicorns of Love do lose this series, it means H2K lock in that first place spot. So if Vitality can apply that, I'm sure they'd like the opportunity.
Oh, all right. Very early Kayn priority coming out. Normally we see it later in the draft, but is no longer a potential flex pick either. Unicorns of Love showing us something new. Kayn already just about 100% confirmed for the jungle alongside that LeBlanc in the mid lane.
That's why we had the graphic prep Drakos. We talked about how Xerxe has been bringing out these slightly different junglers recently, and he's going to play the Kayn once more. He's going to be getting in your face. He loves to invade on this champion. You have so many gank paths, so many options. When you have a mid laner like LeBlanc, who's always going to be pushing and applying pressure, it gives you the freedom to make those kind of plays. So I'm excited to see this start from the Unicorns of Love because it is very reminiscent to what we saw from them last week.
Yeah, very early, very aggressive. Of course, Caitlyn, a dominant early laner. Kassadin, maybe not the case in the mid lane. Looks like Vitality are ready to play more on the back foot. But as we enter the second ban phase, Aurelia has been taken off the board for Vizicsacsi. Not something we see too frequently, but has, I guess, been rising in popularity. We saw it once or twice.
What this indicates is that Vitality are heading towards that Gnar first pick. Some counters that we have seen as an answer from Roccat was drafting the Aurelia, and we have seen it in the past as well, just as an answer to that champion, which is very strong up in the top half of the map. So I would expect that ban to come out from the Unicorns unless they have something else planned to deal with it.
Of course, Shen banned away as well. So Vizicsacsi's, I would say, most successful champions over the course of his career. Aurelia in the early days, Shen more recently, both taken off the board. Now Gnar taken away. Looks like Unicorns of Love sniffed out the strategy that you were talking about there, Vedius. Kha'Zix joins the board as well, potentially an early game answer to the Kayn. So now Vitality keeping it serious, Vedius. I really thought when he ripped up, I guess it was a random sheet of paper. I assumed it was important notes, but we'll see what Vitality want to go for. Renekton in the top lane, very difficult to deal with, especially with so many top laners banned away. We'll see what Unicorns of Love want to go for.
This means that we're expecting the Maokai in the jungle with the Renekton up top. You can look to set up a lot of great early game plays with that duo combo, but there's always the possibility that the Maokai is in fact in support. Very low chance, but there's always the possibility, just keeping your mind open to it. So with the Galio, this was something that was drafted a fair amount as an answer to the Renekton. The thing about Galio is he trades surprisingly well. He will hold his own, he has plenty of wave clear, and while Renekton will still have the advantage during the early laning phase, Galio is one of the better matchups that can, at the very least, get through the laning phase.
Well, it looks like a very standard draft. Janna going to be the pick to close it out alongside the Trundle. Now it looks like it will be the Trundle support, Galio in the top lane, LeBlanc in the mid lane. Maybe hoping to mitigate some of the impact that Cass can have, but two very different team compositions. I like a lot of what we're seeing from Vitality, however.
From Vitality, we've got a bit of a mix and match because we have good laning power from the Renekton and the Kalista combined with the scaling of Maokai and Kassadin. They have the ability to play the 1-3-1 and their team fighting is not that bad as the game progresses. They have a fair amount of peel with the Janna as well, but in terms of goals of the composition, they want to try and get ahead the bottom lane and the top lane. They want to try and use the lane advantages that they have to try and push some kind of lead to then set the Kassadin up for that later game scaling team fighting where this composition can have a lot of success with. For Unicorns of Love, they're all about invading, separating their opposition, playing the 1-3-1. They actually have a draft which is much more avoiding team fights, which is very reminiscent of what we saw from them Game 2 in last week's performance. So let's see if Unicorns can be consistent. Let's see if they can bring out that macro style and if they can avoid fights and go for another low kill game.
And I'm curious too, because you've got the LeBlanc, you've got the Kayn, two champions we've seen Unicorns of Love be successful on snowballing, on finding advantages. I'm also excited, are they going to use the LeBlanc clone Galio combo? One of my favorite interactions that we finally see pretty consistently, and just want to see exactly how these teams are going to execute in the game. They are now getting ready. The Unicorns guy is here. The fans are ready for another Unicorns of Love game. Can Unicorns of Love move up further? Can they take the series and let it all rest on Sunday's matches? We're going to find out as we get into Game 1 between Vitality and the Unicorns of Love. Now, Vedius in the early game, I think we can get excited about the lanes as we see results, but immediately, anytime I see a Kassadin in the game, I want to know, what are you going to do to kill him? I don't want to see him hit level 6 ever.
Yes, you are quite right. Kassadin is all about the late game. He scales exceptionally well, but he is considered by many a good answer into the LeBlanc. The reason why is because he has the magic damage shield on his Q. He can mitigate a lot of the damage. Every time the LeBlanc trades into him aggressively, he can trade back very effectively because of the slight delay that she has on her distortion, so you can actually get a lot of your abilities down and be pretty effective about it. Notice as well, he's gone for the Death Fire touch.
Not grass.
Not grass,
you got
touch.
It. That was an intimate touch there, Vedius.
But basically you run this a lot with Kassadin because you're not really about all-inning. You're more during, it's extremely valuable during the laning phase when you're just poking, when you're harassing. And what you should note from Nukeduck is that very rarely will he use his abilities to hit the minions. He's always going to be trying to hit Exile, chunk Exile down, force Exile back because he knows that he can just farm under turret perfectly fine. He knows he's going to get pushed in. It's more about trying to harass down that LeBlanc, and that will give him the lane advantage that he needs.
Allow him to survive, allow him to get to that late game point. Exile not going to be too happy with that, but you can see Nukeduck, as mentioned, already looking for the aggressive use of the Null Spare to trade it out. But if Nukeduck can just sit comfortably in this mid lane, if he can just farm up against this LeBlanc, then I feel like we're waiting for the junglers to intervene, and that means all eyes on Kayn.
Oh yes, my eyes will certainly be on Kayn. Right now he's done his Raptors into red start. Looks like he's not going to go for any kind of invades very early on. He's going to take things fairly safe. Kayn is a little mana reliant. He does have fairly high cooldowns in the jungle, roughly about 6 to 7 seconds on his Q, and then you're looking at around 13 on his W, which means that getting that extra bit of cooldown reduction, along with the mana regeneration that you have, just adds to the wave clear. And if he decides to do that, I think it's a bit of a gamble, because one thing that Xerxe said to me very early on about Kayn is he believes that if you're not invading, you're not playing Kayn properly. He thinks that you should always be in the face of the enemy jungle. You should always be trying to steal away camps. You have to take advantage of the great mobility that you have, the decent sustain, and that's what I want to be seeing from Xerxe. Can he hold true to the playstyle that he believes is the best way to play this champ?
We'll find out shortly. Maokai, though, clearing to the bottom side means there's not very many camps available on the top. For now, it'll just be the Scuttle Crab for Xerxe. And I gotta say, Maxlore echoed the same sentiments as Xerxe. You want to be invading. He said, do your first clear, and then play it like Season 5 Nidalee. Live in their jungle, is what Maxlore told me on the desk last week, so we'll see if that does remain true. However, he may not have the luxury of living in the jungle if he needs to pay attention to that mid lane. But you can see counter jungle percentage on Kayn, pretty high, Vedius. So it looks like he is living up to that name and is doing so again by stealing away a camp here. Not going to be too impactful at this stage.
And you can see here on the stat, this is the percentage of time from 3 to 50 minutes that is spent in the enemy jungle. It's very much a playstyle that you want to be seeing from Nidalee, and it's very much a playstyle you want to be seeing from Kayn. But An alternative jungle playstyle, which is more conventional, is ganking, which is what Djoko's looking to do right now.
Exileh has to be careful. Sapling thrown down. Djoko would have to commit the flash if he wanted to get anything else. But Xerxe now on his way into the mid lane, maybe hoping to catch the Maokai out. Chain's not going to connect. That means Djoko's going to be free to walk away. Looks like they're pretty confident taking this fight, however, moving in for a little bit more. Djoko is incredibly tanky. Both champions just going to leap over the wall. Pretty hard to stick on both the LeBlanc and the Kayn, but brave move from Djoko. A lot of confidence here in this early Maokai.
Well, he has the health advantage, and I think that he's pretty confident that in the 2 versus 2 this early on, they would actually be relatively okay. Especially with Exileh using a lot of his cooldowns to just escape as well.
And Djoko is the worst kind of jungler to play against. The guy who's not afraid to show up just for a little bit of damage, gets the camp as well. And so now Exileh is actually very much hurting in this mid lane. And we check in on the levels, Vedius. Level 6 just around the corner for Nukeduck. And the trade of blows going surprisingly well. So it looks like your information on the lane matchup was 100% correct.
Really good investment as well from Djoko. The thing about LeBlanc is she will always have good pushing power against Kassadin. And the one thing we didn't mention is usually what you want to try and do is just push him under tower, deny him as much farm as you can. Then once he's under the tower trying to last hit, that's actually the best time to harass it. Djoko recognizing this just goes, you know what? No, I'm going to come into the mid lane. I'm going to stop you harassing my mid laner under his turret. I'm even going to help him get a bit of a CS advantage. We see some trading down the bot.
Yeah, Hylissang taking a cleverly placed tornado from Vander. Right now, bot lane still feels pretty neutral. Caitlyn, of course, a lot of range advantage, but the range advantage on the side of the Janna versus the Trundle, allowing Vitality to stay in relatively close control of the lane. And this is one of those ones where I feel like we are waiting for a little bit more from Steelback and Vander as they have the more lane-dominant picks.
And it's also in part to the fact that Unicorns of Love have picked the Trundle down in the bottom lane. Trundle really doesn't do a lot, especially against a champion like Kalista. And when you play against Janna, who's naturally good at keeping enemies at arm's length, it becomes even harder for that Caitlyn and Trundle to really have a huge amount of impact. But the one thing that I would love to bring up with you, Drakos, is we've had many great discussions about Kalista and how she is a champion.
I would say fights or arguments, but I'm glad you're using the word discussion. That's positive.
But
discussion.
She is very focused towards the early game. She's like 2-3 items is really where her core strength comes from. But what we saw in the Fnatic series against NIP yesterday was Uncensored changes that a little bit. Once you get into the late game, the additional stats that it provides gives her way more mobility that she would typically get. And when you pair that up with defensive supports like a Janna or a Lulu, she can actually play much more in your face, and she can look to be way more aggressive in these later game fights and have a lot more value. So I definitely consider Caitlyn to be the bigger late game threat. But with the addition of Art and Censor, I definitely feel like Kalista has a little bit more late game value than she did in the past.
Very well may be the case when we look at the enemy team she's playing up against. Galio, pretty easy to sidestep and dodge around abilities like the Justice Punch. It's a similar story for LeBlanc chains if you are, you know, an adept Kalista player. So really the question is going to be in these fights to come, can the Unicorns of Love lock this Kalista down and take her out before she becomes a major damage threat? Could be a big concern. Xerxe staying close to the wall, doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with the Renekton. Never really has to, though. The luxury of just walking through those walls.
And I imagine that he will be going for the Rust evolution, because you do have the double tanks of Renekton and Maokai, and you want an additional front line if you can get your hands on it. Now we do see Djoko going for an invade and going to trade in mid.
Eyes on mid lane, uses the first chain to set up the follow-up. Xerxe going for a bit of damage, but no level 6 means no Umbral Trespass and definitely no kill onto Nukeduck. Djoko's in the area, has the level advantage as well as the red buff. Did steal it away from Xerxe, so as good as Xerxe has been about living in the enemy jungle, Djoko's just responding in kind.
I love this adaptation from Djoko, because one of the things that we do see often from him on this Maokai is he will regularly invade, he will regularly try and steal away some of your camps, but knowing what Xerxe tries to do on Kayn, he effectively conceded the top half of his jungle and was just taking Kayn's bottom half. He was trading in farm, he was trading in terms of experience, and making sure that he always got something back whenever Xerxe tried to make a play. Now they're trying to set up a steal onto this blue buff.
Oh, Xerxe doesn't know Nukeduck is here, though. In come the kitty cats. Xerxe with the Umbral Trespass, trying to buy time, trying to make it out of there, trying to make it out. Galio coming down. Ult's going to hit both Nukeduck and Djoko. Djoko running for his life. Spike getting healed up a little bit. Exileh running for his life. Can't afford to get hit by it. That's first blood. Xerxe on the way in. Has no ultimate. They haven't even killed Nukeduck. Vitality, they're looking for one more. That's the double.
And Vitality start off this game with a fantastic lead onto one of their biggest late game threats. Nukeduck with a double kill. The Kassadin already off to a phenomenal start. This is not how you want that game to be going.
This is the dream, Vedius.
Oh, for sure, for Vitality. And let's see how this whole play happens, because Xerxe recognizes that the play is coming, and he uses his ultimate very effectively to very quickly get out of there, use the damage reduction to get a bit of a heal, and they're in a 2 versus 3 now. They think that they can go for the fight, but a really well-timed Rift Walk from Nukeduck, knowing that he has enough damage to get the kill onto Exileh, while also sidestepping the Justice Punch from Xerxe, means that no longer does Xerxe have any more escapes. He's already gotten himself a kill, and Renekton's on his way down. So UOL, the mistake they made was thinking that they could win out on that 2v2.
Oh, and here we go, folks. Fun fact, this is the 84th game in a row that Steelback has not given away first blood. Not really important in the face of a 2-0 Kassadin in the hands of probably the best player on Vitality, but nice for Steelback.
But there's also, I have another fun quick stat for you. So Drakos, did you know that Exileh, he died a lot this split?
I did. Oh, I knew that one.
Now, did you also know that after that death, he is tied for the most number of deaths in the regular season with Faxi at 112.
Wait, 13 death Jarvan Faxi?
13 death Jarvan Faxi. He is currently tied with him for the most number of deaths of the regular season. Now that's a lot of dying, Drakos. Now, he still has another series after this, along with Rocket. They've got to play against Misfits. So those two, they're doing their best right now to not be that guy. That is their goal for the split. Because so far, at the beginning of this game, Exileh not going so great.
Man, when you said you had a fun fact for me, I thought we were gonna, poor Exileh. It's a difficult road. He has been improving though,
of course.
I think one of the keys for Exileh has been a lot of these comfort picks. LeBlanc is one of them, but now, unfortunately, I feel like the window for LeBlanc to dominate is very quickly closing.
But it doesn't mean that it's all game.
Hold that thought. Smite, Xerxe, can he do anything? No. Goodbye. Left into the pit a little early there. Tried to go in blind and is not going to get anything, but does give another delicious kill over the hands of Vitality, and specifically our bloodthirsty friend, Vander.
Ambitious is how I would describe that play. Going in without any vision, he had the flash. I believe he also had his E up as well. Instead...
Vedius, okay, so Renekton, he's going to win against Galio. Kalista, Janna, range advantage, probably going to win the bottom lane. Kassadin, even. But now that Kassadin's 2-0, I don't think Unicorns will ever winning a single lane.
No, they are not. And this Kayn pick is very reliant on the early game. We talked a lot about it in Champions League. We talked about it in the early game. If you're not invading, you're not doing a good job. Now Cabo, he's determined to get himself this tower, and that will be the first tower of the game for Vitality as well. So, you know, you said at the start of this, Vitality, they were going to play serious and they were going to do it for Splice. Right now, they're not playing for Splice. I feel like they're just playing for themselves. There are no holds barred, there's nothing holding them back. They're once again safe and secure. And this is a Vitality that's off to a great early game against one of the best teams in
It's like the plot of every inspirational movie ever. You don't play for anyone else, you play for yourself.
Play for you.
And I gotta say, 12 minutes into the game, 16.7 to 21.1, an Infernal Drake and a tower. Things could not look much better for Vitality. That is a tree in cat pajamas that can definitely kill that man that thinks he's an assassin. So generally, that's a good start for a team like Vitality.
It certainly is. Now, Vitality, they're going to continue on with this laning phase. They haven't decided to swap yet. There's no point swapping a Renekton down into a Caitlyn Trundle lane. He doesn't have teleport, which means that he can't make any kind of cross-map movements, but he can move across the map. If he works with Djoko, he could look to set up a potential dive in the middle lane. They could also look to try and put some pressure onto this bot tower. They just have to be mindful of the TP along with the ulti that's also available on Xerxe, and Hylissang maybe collect.
Difficult road, Blade of the Rune King, moving forward, Xerxe on the way. Heal gonna save Hylissang's life, but a close exchange. Could have burned ultimate as well to survive, but sadly things are starting to look grim. Now, Vitality, we talked about it, cross-map plays, cross-map movements, definitely options up and available for Vitality, but when you're Unicorns Love right now, what are you doing? What is the option left to come back? Because this is a very big gold lead to have this early in the game.
Yeah, and remember what we said about their team composition. They're very much about trying to set up for the 1-3-1. The Galio is fine falling behind in the laning phase. As long as he holds his own, he's doing a good job. But Xerxe, we wanted to see him putting pressure down onto Djoko and Nukeduck. We wanted to see Exileh maybe roaming around the map or trying to stop this Kassadin from turning into a massive snowball. And we wanted to see some kind of emphasis on the Caitlyn, help him get through the laning phase where Steelback and Vander have been dominating for the majority of it. So far we've seen none of that. We've seen Xerxe making a lot of risky decisions, falling behind, giving away a death in the Drake and giving away first blood, not directly, but around the blue buff. And you're right, like, Unicorns of Love, they're running out of options right now. Their best hope is to try and find themselves a pick. They do still have the potential scaling of Caitlyn, but Kalista, with the Ardent Sensor already completed, is in a much better position to force fights right now if you're Vitality.
And I'll be honest, outside of Galio, nobody's peeling for that Caitlyn. Trundle pillar against the Kassadin, that's not really how it works, man. And 2-0, Rod of Ages already completed 4 stacks on that Kassadin. He is so much further ahead of the clock in item builds than he should be. Then from a character we expected to just go even in lane. And some of this is Nukeduck, but also I think we have to praise Djoko. We have some games where he struggles, you know, he cannot find those early ganks, but this game Djoko has been everywhere. Looks like Vitality wanted to play around the mid lane, and Djoko executed flawlessly.
And what I can say for the Unicorns of Love is that they still have that 20-minute spike that they are legendary for. Let's see if they can pull it off somehow. Maybe they can win some miraculous fights. You can never really count the Unicorns of Love out, but I would say that their composition right now not really tailored towards team fighting. Definitely much better for the side of Vitality, especially with this Maokai and Renekton. So I'm excited to see how this game progresses.
All right, well, Vitality with a lead, much better ratio than UOL with the deficit, although UOL wins a surprising number of their games with the deficit at 15. That is what we've come to expect. That is the 20-minute mark that you're talking about, where they find those massive fights, helps them find those wins.
And this is the biggest gold lead right now for Vitality at 15 this bit. TP down the bottom lane.
Shield comes out, Ardent Sensor available for Steelback. We'll see what he can do here. Vizicsacsi on the way in, the flash forward, now trying to pull back, but a body block from Vander. Ult still up and available for Steelback. He's gonna pull his support back. Exile's here on the backside, they're throwing him out. Just gonna be the fake out though. Vitality holding on to their lives, but Unicorns of Love starting to put down the pressure.
So I loved the setup from the Unicorns of Love. They knew they had to make a play happen, so they make it down the bottom lane, but I don't know if that play is over just yet.
There's a Renekton proxy farming their tier 2 on the top side, and Djoko is headed down to the bottom. Nukeduck coming in right as the wave dies, trying to find an opportunity. Will not get hit by the trap.
Here comes the Maokai.
Nukeduck over the wall. Exileh gonna try to lock him up. So much damage from the Kassadin. Exileh now trying to run. Xerxe moving forward. Out come the kitty cats. Not quite enough range from Djoko's ultimate to connect onto Exileh.
But Vitality, they turn that around beautifully. A fantastic sidestep from Steelback, just dodging out from Chachi's taunt, which could have ended in disaster. Because if Steelback dies, Vander then dies, everything suddenly swings in the favor of Unicorns of Love. They had 5 members bot, they would have been able to get a tower, and this would have been, at the very least, a step back in the right direction towards the game. But they fail on the execution. Vitality, they're able to take down a tier 2 in the top lane. They don't lose very much from it other than a TP from Nukeduck, but that then allows Cabo's TP to be back and ready and available.
And the gold lead extends to 6K Vedius, and this is the terrifying thing about playing against a team with a lead. When you make an aggressive move like Unicorns of Love did, if it doesn't work, you lose. You get further and further behind. Now, at best, they were hoping to go even there, hoping to keep themselves in this game, put some gold on those carries. Caitlyn just now finishing the Infinity Edge, but might be too little too late. Steelback and Djoko going to take the second dragon of the game for Vitality, and the lead just gets bigger and bigger.
This is a very impressive early game from Vitality so far. Their draft was extremely well thought out. He may have ripped out the wrong piece of paper, as you identify, because he was like, no, that draft is garbage.
To be fair, it was just a piece of paper in front of him with words on it. He could have ripped up anything.
He could have ripped up time to troll and then decided, we're going to win this game. But they haven't won it yet. They do have a substantial gold lead, and to throw this kind of a gold lead would be an impressive feat. But taking down this mid tower will be the next big challenge for them, because you have to remember there's a lot of wave clear on the Caitlyn. It's very risky to try and set up any kind of dive yourself, because you've always got to respect the Galio and the Trundle pillar that can very quickly turn things in their favor.
And Vedius, this is the best and worst part of watching the Unicorns of Love play, is that you never know. We're going to see them now push in onto this mid lane tower, but you never know if they're just going to find a fight in the middle late game to pull it back. This doesn't look like it's going to be the fight. Djoko doing his best to disengage, is holding on for now. Exileh not going to take too much damage. They are going to back out, but Unicorns of Love clearly not deterred. They are not playing like a team that is down and out in terms of gold. They're playing confident there in the mid lane.
Now look at bot, pushed in. from the side of Vitality. Top, fairly even, but the Renekton is on his way to make sure that's pushing in their favor as well. This means that Vitality can start to group up in the middle lane and start to put a bit of threat down onto this tier 1 in the mid. That will open up the map so much more for them, allow them to start playing towards the Baron, give them so much easier mid lane priority as Unicorns, they're trying to set up a collapse onto Cap.
Xerxe moving forward, but no transformation yet. Means no knock up there. Unfortunate. A bit late in the game not to get it. Should only take 1 or 2 more engages before he can transform. The later we go, the easier it becomes to get that transformation. And it is crucial, of course, Kayn's value in coming fights. See if it'll be Shadow Assassin or Rost. But Exileh doing what he can to clear out the mid lane. Meanwhile, Caitlyn backing finally gets his zeal. Things are, to a certain degree, starting to come together for Unicorns of Love, but you look at the opposite side, and it just sadly does not add up in their favor.
So while we did talk to the Unicorns of Love, they have the 1-to-1 capabilities. Vitality haven't too. When you're playing with a Kassadin, you can very easily move him off into a side lane to deal with the LeBlanc. And the later the game goes, the easier he's going to find holding that 1-versus-1 matchup, which is why it was so important for the LeBlanc to get that early leads. Right now, there's no way that Exileh can kill the Kassadin. The best they can do is send Xerxe there to wave clear, which is what they've done in the bottom lane. And they're trying to funnel a little bit more farm back into the LeBlanc up in the top lane. Nukeduck can now, he can group up with his team. They know they can force fights, and that mid lane turret is their next prize.
Will be easy to get it. Once they get it, they can open up the map just a little bit more. Hylissang and Samux have to be careful. Nukeduck leaping in is going to take tower aggro. Ultimate has been used from Djoko. Who's it going to connect on? 1 member snare. 2 looking for 3. Now the fight has started. Galio on the way in, but he's in the middle of no man's land. That's the knock onto the Maokai. He's fed enough to make it out alive. However, Exileh on the sidelines, taking a decent chunk from the null sphere there, but both teams going to walk away. Vitality, though, the team to get exactly what they want.
They had to use a couple of summoner spells, but they get more in exchange from the Unicorns of Love. Vitality, they extend their gold lead to 8,000, 21 minutes into the game.
And Vedius, look, man, I'm all for it. I believed in the 1-3-1 for Unicorns of Love potentially, but now you're going to have a Renekton on the side lane who is more fed than his counterpart. You're going to have a Kassadin on a side lane that I don't think anyone later in the game is going to be able to 1v1. And at this point, I think Unicorns of Love are hoping that they can outplay in some regard, because in team fights, they don't look like the stronger team right now. And in 1-3-1, they definitely don't have the stronger side laners. Things looking grim.
TLDR, Unicorns,
things are not going well. We mentioned it.
No, they are not. Gunblade now completed for Exileh on the bright side. One of the cool things about LeBlanc is he actually has a fair amount of attack damage really because of that Gunblade. So you can hit Kassadin in the face a lot. That's a very small bright side.
Unfortunately, he has a Lich Bane, and let me tell you, when it comes to trading hits in the face, we got a little
if he smacks
you or a blade of, I guess, void energy, I feel like
Lich energy as well, I suppose.
No, it's Lich Bane though. It's not Lich energy. It's whatever Liches don't enjoy.
Ah, I see. So flowers and puppies. But the problem is, it gets very difficult at this point in the game to really talk about the bright side. Best you can do is hope Unicorns can force them. Well,
they have been known to find these fights in mid. Xerxe is moving forward, trying to heal up for now. Whoa, so much damage from Steelback. They're going to throw in the Janna. That's 2 members locked up. They're looking to keep the fight going. Galio ult is coming in. 1 member knocked up. Cabo now moving forward, looking for a little bit more. Out comes the Maokai ultimate. Triple. It's not even needed. Steelback finds the triple, and just another great fight for Vitality.
Straight to the Baron for Vitality. Unicorns, they're just trying to find something. They group up mid, they see Steelback and Vander, they try to get the collapse, and yeah, they get a lot of summoner spells out from the AD carry and support, but they cannot get the kills. Nukeduck joins the fray, Cabo TP's in, everything falls apart for the Unicorns, and Vitality with a 12,000 gold lead.
Vitality with nothing to play for. 12,000 gold lead against Unicorns of Love, a team hotly contesting first place in Group B. Would not have expected this going into the series, but you gotta say it's well deserved. Such a clean team fight from Vitality.
So you can see here 4 members of Unicorns versus 2 of Vitality. The TP from Renekton, but the key thing is Maokai's not even there, and Vitality have already gotten a kill. LeBlanc is forced to disengage, the Galio comes through as a last-ditch attempt, but Steelback is just too strong at this point. He has the Ardent Sensor, he had the Blade of the Ruin King along with the Runettes Hurricane, and you can just see the fruits of his labor.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Kalista. Yes, she is stronger in the late game, but she's still really strong in the mid game, and especially with a lead. This is a champion you do not want to give an advantage to, and it's just paired with an entire suite of Vitality champions that you do not want to have leads. Cabo now so confident in his lead, he's going to be busting out the Blade of the Rune King, and that means it's going to be almost impossible for Vizicsacsi to comfortably stay in that lane.
We can 1v2 this.
Does he have the damage? 1v2, Vedius calling the prediction. Xerxe now in trouble, has the Umbral Trespass, will heal up a decent amount, but Cabo's still hunting for more. Hylissang on the way, Cabo is fearless. Nukeduck is here as well, the chain CC, they're trying to keep him locked down. Cold the Meat, gonna heal him up. Nukeduck throwing out the Null Sphere, no chance to escape. Null Sphere gonna cancel the channel, and oh look, here comes Steelback. Hylissang, yeah, you're dead, bud. Double kill drops for Nukeduck. Yamato.
That was a satisfying smile on his face. The plan came together. Throw the casters off, make them never expect the full Vitality.
He's playing around the caster curse.
Yeah. He knew it all along. Inhibitor gonna drop in favor of Vitality. If I do say so myself, this is looking like a perfect game, Mr. Drakos.
Oh my god, it is Vedius. Did you know this is almost a perfect game?
I did notice that this was in fact looking like a perfect game.
Very close. And unfortunate for Unicorns of Love. And realistically, when we look at this one, I think they are so far ahead at this point in the game.
Yeah, just look at the Murder Crocodile here. Like, this guy's like, hey, I'm Rust. I'm really good at killing tanks. And Cabo's like, joke's on you. I built Black Cleaver and a Blade of the Ruin King. I'm not a tank. I might have a lot of HP, but I can still murder you better than you can murder me. And so he's just running away, and he definitely would have 1v2'd, but Nukeduck joined. That forced Unicorns of Love to run away. And Cabo was like, meh, I'll just take the one kill. I'll be happy with what we've gained. And they get an inhibitor off the back of it. So you can see Unicorns, they're trying, but unfortunately, they're kind of running out of options. And that is one of the good things you can say. I mean, Unicorns have many good things you can say about them, but another good thing you can say about them is that when they are behind, when they're losing, they don't cower and wait to lose. They will always try and fight you, and which means that they will lose pretty quickly, or they'll find some miraculous way back into the game.
Well, Vedius, that might not be this game. 15K gold lead for Vitality, 26 minutes into the game. This is one of the biggest snowballs that I have ever seen. And it just gets harder and harder. For now, though, it's a matter of just seeing if Vitality can close out, seeing if Vitality can play this cleanly. Now, with a lot of teams, we can talk playoffs. We can talk promotion tournament if they're dropping down. Vitality are in that clean spot in the middle where whatever they show us here is just cool. Yep. It's just good League of Legends.
Vander trying to do his old teammate a solid, as the second inhibitor tower is surely to fall. Vitality, they don't want to run the risk of diving. They don't have the Baron. They don't need the Baron. Their gold lead is a Baron. Caitlyn traps are trying to be a little bit obnoxious for Vitality, but they can just send Nukeduck off to a side lane. He knows he can 1v1 anyone. So if other members of Unicorns try and answer him, then Vitality, they'll take that turret for sure.
This is potentially the last stand for Unicorns of Love. One wrong team fight could end the game in favor, but if Vitality oversteps, Unicorns of Love could look to turn it. Nukeduck is on the side. He's pulling back. Out comes the Galio ultimate. No one's going to drop quite yet. Waiting for those kills to start coming in. Steelback now on a rampage. Kitty Cats connect across the team for Unicorns of Love, and now they're pushing in for more. The flash forward from Steelback. He's looking for a little bit. Samux just backing off. That's going to be the double kill. Yet another red. Steelback is hunting down his prey. He is merciless. No hope for Samux. No hope for the Unicorns of Love here as the triple kill comes in. That's going to be game one going in favor of Vitality. And Vedius, you called it. It's a perfect game to start off the series.
Not much more to add. It was perfect. Vitality, they played that exceptionally.
Perfectly, actually. They played that game perfectly,
They did indeed play that perfectly. It all started with that kill around the blue buff. From there, Unicorns of Love, they fell behind. The casting gets a double kill. They try to make a play happen in the bottom lane. Really quick and slick sidestep from Steelback, dodging out from the gank. They do not fall prey to the setup from Unicorns, and then that's it. Unicorns, they run out of options. They're just slowly losing the rest of the map.
And for me, Vedius, this is so backwards, because normally we see Unicorns Love be the team to pick these scaling champions, to take risks in the laning phase, and then we see another team overstep into them, suddenly give a Kassadin 2 kills, and it's Unicorns of Love dominating. This time, completely the opposite. It was Unicorns of Love. They strayed a little too far into the face of a Kassadin. Yes, you might think you have the advantage, but if you fail, if you falter against a champion who snowballs so effectively, you just run out of options.
And it's always so bittersweet that all these teams are stepping up in the final week of the LCS. Sure, you could make the argument that maybe Unicorns are still trying this style. They made it work last week, and they want to continue practicing it. They want to further develop it. They want to make sure that they can continue to make this kind of play style work. And that right now, they're not playing in true Unicorns of Love fashion. They're not playing the optimal way that will guarantee them success. But that doesn't mean you can take anything away from Vitality, who played a perfect game.
Vitality played beautifully. In fact, Vitality dominated in Game 1. Let's get some thoughts from our analysts on their win.
Well, the official's thoughts were that Yamato should have ironed the back of his jacket.
That was a personal thing, right there, Xerxe.
Yeah, I was getting a note from production that you're very much fashion police for someone that's not even wearing a tie today.
Because there are no ties great enough
for the official.
For this body.
You just can't handle being judged. You can dish it, can't
That's
take
a
it.
nice tie, though.
Well, before we keep talking about the official, which somehow we always end up doing, we are going to talk about the game because Vitality just straight up perfect gamed the Unicorns of Love and probably said, be careful about praising Vitality because the caster curse will then make it lose the 2 next games, but we have to. Fantastic game by them.
Yes, and probably, by the way, said that around this first replay we want to show when I called that this was game over because Kassadin just got 2 kills and probably was like, no, it's not game over, don't say the caster curse. But it was game over because look at this invade. Probably, what do you see with your great eyes?
I see a Mr. Nukeduck looking strong. I do see a Renekton winning the top lane, and then Xerxe not, playing the Kayn getting chunked in one shot. So the trades are really in favor, even though it's a 3v2. Like Chachi comes in with not all his cooldowns, and he's like half health. And then the Kassadin right now is just way stronger base than LeBlanc. And same thing with jungle. It just, everyone at that point was much weaker than their counterparts.
Yeah, it looks like kind of a random trade to take in that way.
I mean, at first, but obviously when you have the top lane pushing, making the call of saying, hey, let's invade blue buff, we can collapse.
I mean, from Unicorns of Love to keep contesting it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Unicorns were like, hey, these are 2 guys fighting first. I'm not sure if it was called like how low Xerxe they got from the first trade when they actually all in on him. But they're very clearly fully committed, saying, okay, Renekton is not here yet. Take the fight, 3v2, see if you can turn it around. Didn't have the damage for it. Xerxe was out of the fight from the get-go because they engaged onto him. And when you get 2 kills on Kassadin at 8 minutes?
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it's not good.
That's not great.
That's not good. We were talking about kind of a micro point, the fact that Exileh went for the double Dark Seal, and you were saying in any other situation or versus other counterparts that would have been better. In this case versus the Kassadin, it's not so good, and a null magic mantle probably would have helped him even in that trade.
Yeah, because I don't know, when you play against Kassadin and you want to out-sustain him, that's never really your goal. Your goal is to push him in, you can get winning trades, and you can probably make side lane skirmishes faster than him because you can move faster. So if you do this double Dark Seal, you really invest in 0 health and only kind of HP regen, then it's kind of gives Kassadin what he wants. Now he just gets to sit in lane, he'll take less pressure, and then you'll heal up his damage, but it's never going to be a winning trade for you.
That's very micro. Obviously, that wouldn't have turned the game, maybe in that trade though.
I mean, judging from... Sure, let's just pretend that the trade had gone different because of it. It could have been a different game for Unicorns of Love, but I think in the grand scheme of everything, Vitality were just way better in this game. And I love the Kassadin pick in general. Exileh has this habit with Sheepy of saying one champion is working for us right now, we need to pick it no matter what in every situation possible. So they take it super early, they showed it LeBlanc, and Nukeduck just responded with Kassadin instantly and said, you know what, this is a fine matchup for me to scale up. And then, because there was a Kayn already as well, it was really hard for Unicorns to really do anything in the early game because they couldn't really punish the Kassadin early, and the Maokai actually ended up being way better in these early fights than the Kayn. So they just fell behind and didn't have really any way back in the game because also the scaling was in favor of the Kassadin. So once you got the kills, whoa, they looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kayn early looked really weird, but I think what they're thinking is, if you pick LeBlanc, the most common counter is Kassadin. I think that's pretty well known. And other than Gnar and Jace top, there's only melee top. So if you stick with a LeBlanc Kayn, you're looking to get a Kassadin mid lane and another melee top. And this can kind of give you your transformation really quickly if you pull off a lot of ganks and a lot of jungle invades. But I never really saw too many actual early ganks towards mid lane. I think Kayn tried to do some invades, but it wasn't as it wasn't as I don't know, full aggressive style that maybe you could get away with in solo queue and try to get your transformation much earlier.
But that wasn't possible, and then when they got put behind early, it was obviously even harder. Vitality, they put the pedal to the metal. They got the dragons, they got the towers, and they got the teamfight wins even in the mid-game. And Steelback was also putting up a good performance on Kalista.
Yeah, together with Vander, obviously good disengage here after Unicorns don't manage to succeed on the first engage, and then like just a great re-engage. And at this point, you're already really far down. Like there's almost nothing you can do. I love the Vander as well, like going for the classic, you know, rush out and sensor, get your gold quins. Don't even buy boots. You don't need that garbage anymore. Just sit
I heard this wins games.
next to your AD carry and just protect Steelback in this game here. And I mean, at this point, you know, that fight we saw there was just a complete stomp because when the first engage fails, there's nothing you can do in the return.
And it's another one of those bittersweet ones because Vitality is trailing the whole split. They get that safe spot again, and then they show, much like Roccat yesterday.
Yeah, and just when we talked about Unicorns a lot for having a great early game against Splice, and we want to see more of it, they go in, they get completely stomped in this game, get perfect game by Vitality, who's not even in playoffs. Probably is afraid that this will not last, you know, the entire series, because he obviously needs Vitality to win to lock H3K's first place.
You can't choke in the quarterfinals if you're not in it. Am I right, Probably?
Yeah, so I'm really surprised by the bottom teams. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes, the bottom teams were very surprising, and yeah, they're playing like actually well. You know, there's a difference between like top teams just throwing really hard, and then bottom teams like playing a game out correctly.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that one real quick. I see a lot of people, you know, on Reddit, Twitter, and so on. They're panicking because the top teams before playoffs are losing to the bottom teams. Europe is doomed after Rift Rivals already, and now it's doomed even more because our top teams are losing. Is this because the top teams are looking weaker, or is it, as you just said, that the bottom teams are actually just getting much better towards the end?
No, I mean, I was actually more surprised by how the bottom teams were performing. I mean, I guess like an example is like today against some serious monkeys, like they got a lead against us, and like they couldn't close a game, which they should have. And the like G2 games and Fnatic games, when the bottom team got a lead, or when they even lost pressure, they actually would wait until a fight and then close out the game well. Like. Yesterday, the bottom teams didn't even have the big advantage that Mysterious Monkeys had today, but those other teams were actually like closing games well. Like they looked like a good team. If they've been playing this way all split, they would not be in the bottom.
Exactly. We'll see if they can continue that Vitality. Very impressive game one, but the Unicorns of Love are in a tough position against that team. Will we see yet another upset here in the final week? Find out when we return for game two.
2-0.
Shut up.